Liam Vickers is someone I don't need to introduce, especially on this channel, but for the sake of the runtime and the folks at home, I'll explain. Liam Vickers is the creator of one of the most popular indie shows of recent times, and he has a pretty lengthy history here on YouTube as well, with writing stories and doing storyboard work. So with all this history, some of his stuff just has been sadly lost to time. Well, today, I want to dive into any lost media revolving around Liam, and this includes anything that was never meant to see the light of day, and anything that's been deleted but is still accessible through archives. The way I'm going to do this is by sorting everything out into 5 sections, so I can talk about everything in pretty much chronological order. SSTWL, which is an acronym for Scary Storytime with Liam, Spooptime, Skits, LVA, which is another acronym for Liam Vickers Animation, and some extra stuff. So without further ado, let's get into it. Scary Storytime with Liam was the first channel Liam has made all the way back in 2013. Here he would write and read out creepypastas and upload music. Now, since this is his oldest channel, listing off all the stuff that has been removed will give me a fucking headache. The wiki has a lot of stuff that sadly has been lost to time with no residual archive of it. The SSTWL Discord was my best friend while making this video, but even then, I don't have that much knowledge about SSTWL, so I'm going to need some help from someone who does.
Hello, I am the Dire Duck, and I've been brought to Slayer's infinite blue void. When Slayer told me he was making this video, my first thought was, you bastard, I was planning to make this video, I'm the old-time Liam fan, not you, ugh! But after calming down, I decided to help Slayer on his video while I tried to track him down. Slayer doesn't know all the deep Liam lore like I do, so I'm going to attempt to save this video for you all. So, I'm going to be popping in here and there to explain some things that Slayer is too lazy or too incompetent to explain himself.
Well, thank you, Dyer. Maybe I'm not screwed after all. I'm going to quickly list off everything that has just been lost to time with absolutely no record or information anymore. The original narration of Colorado Fishing Trip, Clocks, the original narration of The Pursuit Institute, the original narration of A Cold Love Story, Gravedigger, Jeff the Killer reboots chapters 1 through 5, and The Silence Experiment. For the most part, that is everything that has been completely wiped from existence with no video left of them. So here are some things now that you can still find if you do a bit of digging. A speed paint of Callie Ames, who is a character from Design, which is one of Liam's oldest stories. Apparently the CliffSide pilot's trailer, which was an animation made by Liam in 2018, was released on SSTWL but was taken down. There was a 10,000 subscriber Q&A that does say it has been deleted, but I actually managed to find someone who archives a lot of Liam's work, and actually managed to archive both part 1 and part 2 of his Q&A. Huge shout out to Asher Archivist. She has been pretty much a huge help in finding lost media with Liam. This video wouldn't have been possible to make without her help. Now, going back to a previous story that I said was lost, there is actually a game version of A Cold Love Story that is a visual novel. Now, I've never actually explained what A Cold Love Story is. So Dyer, could you care to explain what A Cold Love Story is?
Of course, Slayer. Right, so, A Cold Love Story is basically Liam's first major project. Sure, he had other stories before A Cold Love Story, but it was the first one to really leave a mark on both the community and Liam himself. Now, spoilers ahead for A Cold Love Story. So, what you want to do right now is pause this video, go watch A Cold Love Story, then go to my channel, The Dire Duck, hit the subscribe button, then turn the bell icon on, and then come back to finish the rest of this video. Okay? You done all that? Good. So, the story does vary depending on which version you watch, but it all involves John running into Sarah while waiting for the bus on a snowy day. The bus doesn't show up for some reason, and Sarah tells John that the reason is because school has been cancelled due to the snowstorm. They end up going back to John's house due to how cold it was. Eventually, John sees a news report about his school bus being involved in some sort of incident, which prompts him to go outside to investigate himself, eventually finding the bus to have crashed horribly and it being covered in blood. Now understandably panicked, he runs back to his house to find a body falling down his stairs, with Sarah holding the severed head of one of his friends, along with it being revealed that Sarah has murdered many other people in John's life and brought them all to his house so they could all be, in her words, friends. It is revealed that Sarah caused the bus to crash and killed everyone inside, then lied about the school being closed to John in order to set up this whole scenario in a deranged romantic gesture, before the story ending on Sarah trying to kiss old John. So yes, if you couldn't already tell, Sarah is a good old yanderary, and the first in a long list of murder girl archetypes that Liam really likes to use. A Cold Love Story forms the bedrock of what could be considered Liam's writing style, with it being the very first instance of Liam's favourite archetypes and writing quirks in action. While very much the alpha version of these, both Sarah and John provide the blueprint of what Liam's future characters are built on, leading all the way through SSTWL to Liam Vickers Animation and then all the way up to Murder Drones. You can still find the DNA of Sarah and John in all of them in one form or another.
Nightmare TV and Can We Beat the Turning Test, Click Ventures could possibly be other games that were also in development by Liam. Apparently there were a couple old scripts of Design, which is another story about some very quirky killers. More music for Puppet Game, which is a story based on
The multiverse.
where most of Liam's previous characters are put into a tournament by this little puppet guy named Ponder. By the way, speaking of Ponder, there is a Ponder YouTube channel that I assume Liam used to make some ARG while he was writing Puppet Game. There was also a different thumbnail that was used at some point for Puppet Game, and it is NR'd from FNAF's sister location. There was supposed to be a Cold Love Story animation, which did get teased at the end of Ascent, another story written by Liam, but because this is Liam, he has the attention span of a fucking carrot, so this never got made. Next, there's C2 Strain and Yellow Halogen. C2 Strain is a project people know very little of because Liam has only written the script for it and never made a video narrating it. But you can go read the story just by clicking a link in the SSTWL Discord server. Yellow Halogen was privated for some reason.
It is actually not entirely known why Liam privated Yellow Halogen, but there is some speculation. One possible explanation is that Liam simply wasn't happy with the story. After all, Liam had taken down other stories he wasn't happy with in the past, but he did also say in his Goodbye SSTWL video that he wouldn't do this for any videos that were on his channel at the time that video was made. Another explanation could be that he was simply embarrassed by the story, as it is a product of its time after all. It could be that he thought it was cringy, or maybe he thought he'd be cancelled for it, as Yellow Halogen does contain some more mature themes and is quite out there in some parts. We may never truly know.
According to the wiki, there was going to be a series called Split, which was a viewer submission, and designed season 3, part 14 and onward. There's also a playlist containing viewer submissions where people would just send Liam their stories. While it says 22 videos, it also says that one has been hidden, and I think that one is called the Blackjack's Guillotine. Guess how many times I've said Jack Black's Guillotine while reading the script out. Anyways, this guy named Randy Frisk is just a tad bit psychotic. One day when he was younger, he went to a magic show where the magician had 2 minutes to free himself from handcuffs or he'd fall into a pool of sharks. Obviously, the magician falls to his death, but a deck of playing cards fall out of his pocket and the Jack of Spades lands in front of Randy. So, many years later, Randy decides that he's going to end his life subscription, but he doesn't want to go out like a little bitch. He wants to go out in a unique way. So he makes a homemade guillotine and he uses the Jack of Spades as the blade. So after hours of hacking away at the back of his neck, he does start bleeding and eventually the card comes down on his exposed spine, finally paralyzing him. He dies as the police take him away, but he unsuccessfully manages to sever his head. There was also a story called Killer AU, which I think we're going to need Dyer to help explain again.
Okay, Slayer. Right, so Killer AU, or Killer Among Us, is a non-canonical murder mystery story set in the Design universe. And before any of you say anything, this story came out in February 2015. So if anything, Among Us stole from Killer AU, right down to the Find the Killer plot. Liam should really sue. Anyway, Killer AU is set in a high school where someone is a killer. Shocker, I know. It's up to John and Callie to determine who it is before everybody dies. This story contains some of John's classmates from back in Design Season 1, as well as other characters unique to this story. Killer AU is set up like an actual mystery story with clues and alibi for each of the main cast, so you can actually try to work out who the killer is and solve the mystery along with the rest of the cast. A lot of the appeal of Killer AU does stake on this mystery, so telling you much more about it may spoil it for you, so if you're interested in a full-blown whodunit, go check it out. Back to you, Slayer.
Liam also decided to read a story that he made when he was 8 years old. There's also a creepypasta called Facebook Chat, a live-action creepypasta. It's basically a story in a Facebook chat where 3 people, Max, Lily, and John, are just having a chill night until Max sends a link with a weird message. So John and Lily just assume Max got hacked. Lily calls Max to tell him his Facebook account got hacked, and minutes later, Max sends the recording of the call to the group chat. John starts to freak out and warns Lily. John investigates the original link Max sent to the group, and we don't see anything, but John saw something that scared him and he threatens to call the cops on Max. John tells Lily to stay away from the windows and to lock her doors. Apparently 2 pictures were taken from outside Lily's window, and the story ends with Lily sending a message for help and a link for the next victim. Next we have Death in the Family, which is the longest story I will be talking about in this video. It is about a guy going to visit his old home, but every time he tries to get in contact with a family member, he can't just seem to get a proper response from them, and almost like he's texting something unconsciously that he doesn't want to say. He gets stranded near his old home, but this mysterious person says they'll come pick them up, so he thinks everything is fine. But the more he explores his old house, he just finds everything in ruins, reminiscing about his neglectful parents and his sister. This mysterious family member keeps asking questions, gaslighting our protagonist. Eventually, he starts spiraling out of control and almost starts seeing his deceased family members. This force of nature keeps telling our protagonist to run away. As he tries to leave, he sees his father's corpse reaching for him. For some reason, this guy keeps texting on his phone instead of trying to get away. He gets to his car, but all these corpses start banging on it, breaking the windows. He manages to get away, but is distracted by the non-stop calls and texts from this mysterious figure and skids off the road. He tries to call the police for help, but somehow there are no on-duty officers or medics to help him. 10 out of 10 service from the American healthcare system. Now, last up for any actual story stuff in this section is Serpedon. There's also a lot of music tracks that have seemed to have been lost or removed from YouTube, but thanks to our favorite archivist Asher, some of the songs have been archived for SSTWL, and a lot of them are still available on SoundCloud on Liam's own account. So I'm only going to name off the ones that have been left in the archives. These are Cold's Theme, Left-Handed Gunslinger, Let's Play a Game, Playing God, Callie's Theme 1.5 Demo, and Altered. Now, as to my knowledge, that is pretty much it for everything that has been lost for SSTWL. Now moving on to Spooptime. So, some of you might be wondering, what the f is Spooptime? Well, Spooptime was an animation channel that Liam was running alongside SSTWL. Now, from what it looks like, this channel is where Liam would upload any of his classwork he had while taking his animation courses. Now, once again, thanks to our favorite archivist Asher, pretty much everything related to Spooptime has been saved. There is significantly less to talk about here, so I don't have that much of an urge to bash my head against a steel beam. There are about 25 animations in this playlist, so I'm going to quickly list them off. Everywhere is a 10-second animation where a guy voiced by Liam asks his friend where to sit, while his friend responds with Everywhere with a bomb vest on. New Dog is a horror animation that starts off with a walk cycle of a wolf. Then Liam and his friend Cameron Stevens appear asking why he hasn't made any long-form animation, so they quickly switch the tone entirely to a horror setting, where Liam walks out the door to meet a 3D girl, as she's called, with her big-ass hellhound that can sniff out bad people. Revenge of the Comet is a biblically accurate retelling of how the dinosaurs went extinct. Overly gritty Pokemon reboot is just Pokemon if it was the edgiest shit imaginable. Now, I'm not an expert on the lore of Pokemon, so sorry if I fuck any of this up, but basically this guy's walking away from a massacre his potentially former love interest has committed. This green Pokemon, dual-wielding AR-15, starts to open fire on Ash Vickers. God damn, I hate that name. She destroys all the Pokeballs he has, and he's about to accept death, but the green Pokemon gets shot in the head by Pikachu. What the fuck did I just watch? Visual music is just a bunch of colors moving to the beat of a song, so there's nothing much there. Cyberbullying is an animation where we are taught the valuable lesson that bullying isn't very cool, and you shouldn't do it unless you're on the internet. Ant King and the Fallen Leaf is an animation about an ant being adopted in a sea of other ants by the king and queen of their colony. They raise him as their own, but unfortunately, since he technically isn't royalty, he can't become heir to the throne. He's then pushed into learning as much as he can about how to be king. He eventually finds someone to love, for about 2 seconds, as there are birds picking off the ants on the ground, and our young player is right in the middle of the fire. The king ant finally saves him after his mother and love interest were murdered right in front of him, and explains to him that he was taught all this, so that way, one day, their colony can finally learn how to build a fucking anthill. World War II shenanigans takes place with 2 soldiers fighting against the Germans, and as they retreat, one of them gets shot, and this is what they didn't want to teach you in school. But, unknown to the public, Hitler's greatest weapons were not tanks and gas, but instead, a fucking dragon. Sherlock and the Machine is about Sherlock Holmes and this other guy looking at the math that cannot calculate the weird physics in Liam's projects. Sherlock kicks the table out of a window that just so happens to land on his old colleague, causing his machine to blow up and kill everyone in the theater. New Blood Walk Cycle is almost exactly as it sounds. It is just a little guy made out of blood walking on a knife, but like I said, almost. It quickly becomes a fight scene between tiny little blood people, and it ends with Liam trying to come up with some bullshit ass ending. Unsei no Retare, I'm pretty sure I fucked that up so unbelievably hard, is an anime parody of Attack on Titan, where Liam, Katie Hood, and Cameron Stevens have to figure out why lip syncing in anime is garbage. And in order to do this, they need to destroy the audio file of this project that is in a giant Hitler robot. No, I'm not making a joke. This robot is just Hitler. Also, Liam just gets fucking gunned down. Cameron does some superpower shit and almost becomes every white girl's dream anime boy, but gets fucking shot as well. Katie fucking falls down on a spike and calls upon her estrogen powers to save the day. Turns out they were watching the entire thing in class and ends with the teacher on the brink of death. Paralyzed Childhood is a parody of the Powerpuff Girls on a different channel called Boredom Archives, where Liam, Katie, and Cameron have to go find this guy's Walkman because the music is so good that it can paralyze people. They beat the living shit out of the robbers and accidentally cause the cassette player to start playing, which paralyzes the train conductor and causes the train to crash. The train crashes so hard, it sends everyone into another cartoon parody, this time it being Danny Phantom. Liam and Katie are about to get the tape, but they're stopped by the ghost of the Jonas Brothers' career. Once they're stopped, they get sent to the Fairly Odd Parents. What kind of fucking unholy acid trip am I going through? Anyways, Cameron is depressed as fuck because this was all actually just a retelling of events that happened in Cameron's life, where he's just coping with the trauma of Liam and Katie's death from that initial train crash. Next is a song called Cop Banter, where it's just the SSTWL song Daughter Program, but with Liam talking over it the entire time. Next animation is called Doomsday Box, where it's just a little wannabe icon wakes up and looks around, only to just be called a nerd on the TV.
So next up, we have Gobblety Tobblety. Now this one is certainly obscure, with only having a 4-minute preview of a pilot that was released back in 2016, the fully written script to the rest of that pilot, and some associated art assets. It is one of Liam's first attempts at putting together a pilot for a show, but he decided to scrap it in the end, which is why you likely haven't heard of it. Though it does serve as another missing link in the evolution of Liam's style, it being one of the first instances of Liam's more modern style starting to take shape. Gobblety Tobblety is set in rural Wyoming in a large hunting community, with a deer named Gobblety Tobblety as its main protagonist. Now tell me, what happened to a deer in a rural hunting community? That's right, they get shot. And that's what happened to our dear old deer, Gobblety Tobblety. However, she is saved by a mysterious amulet that saves her life and transforms her into a deer-human hybrid thing. She ends up meeting the other main protagonist of the show, a timid boy named Skip, that no one else can see except her. She attempts to try and settle into a new school life with the help of Skip, constantly in fear of being discovered, which is what the preview mostly focuses in on. Though, with everyone else being, well, frankly a bit stupid, no one seems to notice all the horns and other deer-like features she possesses. What is strange is that everyone at the school talks to her like they already know who she is, despite only showing up at the school on that day. But that is not the only mystery that's set up. We also have an incompetent Wyoming-based Area 51 type organization operating in the area, and a bunch of other things going on as well. But to save me from explaining the deep lore of a long dead pilot, I suggest you go watch the preview and read the script for yourself if you're interested.
Next we have KG Balls, which is an animation assignment that is supposed to give Liam practice on squish and stretch animation. Liam worked on this with Katie and Cameron as they voiced these 3 balls, where it's revealed that 2 of the balls are actually Russian spies, and they get stopped by Cameron, who is God's favorite American. Volleyball is just a short with a guy playing with the volleyball. Nothing much there. Next is an animation show reel that Liam has made for some animations that we actually haven't seen yet. A 3D animation called Fuck Science, another 3D animation called The Box, and something called Mistake. Next is Dog Walk, which is a 14-second 3D animation of that same girl from New Dog walking with the big ass dog, who I can only assume is named Cody. Area 52 is an animation with a few UFOs, and that's about it. Marry Me is a 3D animation where a guy is just fumbling the bag with this girl and gets rejected. Next is a walk cycle for Max, who is what Liam used to represent himself in some of these projects. Next we have The Bothers of Texting, which is a short animation of a girl crashing out over someone who gave her a 1-letter response. Pretty based. It's a Compass Man is a song featuring Cameron Stevens, which is just him saying it's a compass man over a beat. Ants of the Trojan Hill is a semi-live action animation where one ant comes home to a school shower and is chatting up with all the other ants, where he drops this line.
Jeez, and I thought females were the worker drones.
So next up we have an animation that isn't in the playlist or on Asher's channel, but it is on a Google Drive called Render Output 7. It's a short animation where Liam, who is portraying Max in this, is asking Sarah out on a date. She says no because they're different art styles. The entire project starts to glitch out because the deadline is due and Liam has no more time to animate. They try to step towards each other, only for the project to crash. The last up is a final project that Liam has that shows 3 animations, but only one of them follows the prompt. Which one is it? We don't fucking know. But it shows Ant of the Trojan Hill, Mistakes, which is a don't text and drive thing that Liam made, and the last one is a guy shitting, contemplating his life decision. And for the most part, that is pretty much it for Spooptime. So this skit section might have you scratching your head a little bit. You see, Liam made a bunch of skits for his classes to put his writing and filmmaking to the test, I guess. And the reason I put this in its own separate category is because it's very unclear whether he actually uploaded these to SSTWL or Spooptime. So for all that is holy, we're just putting them in its own section. Now first up, That Wizard Came from the Moon. It is a short music video where Liam walks up to Cameron and asks him if he can give him directions. Cameron pulls out a compass and says the funny line.
What is that?
It's a compass, man.
Liam points to the sky as a wizard comes crashing down, and immediately it becomes a parody of TikTok by Kesha. God, that song aged well. Liam tells this guy to give the wizard a broom so he can fulfill his schizo fantasy of going to the moon. Exiled on Friday Night is a short where Liam kicks out his roommate because he has done what every animator could only ever dream of and managed to get laid. So she hatches a plan to get back at Liam and goes to CVS to get a pregnancy test to show the girl through the window that Liam is a man. 1 second every day is a short film where Liam and his friend document their lives 1 second every day, making it very clear that they are broke college students and they need to go rob a bank. So once they get back to their dorm and they think they're safe, Liam gets assassinated by the reverse JFK method. Liam's friend manages to leave the country and moves to the trash island of the Pacific. I don't know. Mod Sleps is a short where a group of people discover the raw, uncontained power of a cootie catcher, fortune teller, whatever the fuck you call these things. Everyone else sees this guy messing with it and changing the outcome of events, so they all pull out scissors and try to cut it up. But this guy manages to do the impossible and pulls a girl using it, so all the negatives cancel out. Kevin Sucks the Color is a take on those early 1900 silent films where this fuck named Kevin gets interrogated by Liam because all the color is gone. Conspiracy is a 7-minute horror film where a bunch of people are at a Conspiracy Theorists Anonymous, where they can all be schizo. Liam, who is referred to as Joey in the skit, but for the sake of simplicity, I'm just gonna call him Liam, believes that big corporations are ran by the government. I think he has it backwards. It cuts to Liam and a couple members laughing at the batshit insane stuff they heard. This guy named Robert questions where one of the members named Jerry is gone. Robert then goes missing the next day, and Liam finally snaps, returning to his conspiracy roots and puts on the tinfoil hat. He goes to the organizer's office and he tells the person that his ability to give a fuck about conspiracies has gone out the window. A cheeky problem is a short where Liam and his friends just violate this poor guy by throwing coins into this guy's asshole and swiping a bank card in his ass. Magically, $20 come out, and my will to edit this part of the video is dwindling. Now, for modern Liam Vickers animation, there really isn't that much lost content. There's like 3 things, max. He does have a couple storyboards that are unlisted, but they're on his website so they don't count as lost media. But there are about 3 things I could talk about for this section, so this is going to be the least painful thing out of this entire video. Now, first up is Devil Cat, a short where a cat gets possessed by Satan and tries to intimidate this girl named Hayes. Now, this isn't exactly lost media, since you can actually find this on his website, but there is a continuation of the short if you look in the SSTWL Discord, where Hayes walks down the stairs to her dad and they question why the cat is being nicer than usual. Now, second is the Loud House story test. Now, I know absolutely nothing about the Loud House other than it's a show on Nickelodeon, but this short is about a kid named Lincoln tweaking the fuck out because of parent-teacher conferences. I probably would have had mine by the time the video came out. Anyways, Lincoln starts thinking of a plan to make sure his parents don't have to meet the teacher. And now, this last one will actually surprise you, and I'm gonna give you 3 seconds to guess. You ready? 3, 2, 1. It's Internecion Cube. Yeah, I was surprised when I found out about this one as well, but let me explain. This version of Internecion Cube is just a work-in-progress version of the 1-minute 40-second short. The only difference between the public release and this one is that this just doesn't have any audio. That's it. Here's some extra stuff that is pretty much uncategorized, but still worth mentioning. Radio Killer is a gotcha movie, which I pray to God is just satire. In this 24-minute long video, the class president gets a bomb threat, and the only way of stopping it from going off is to do a couple tasks. While in the process of trying to stop the bomb, she is falling for this guy named Gray. Gray reveals to JJ, the class president, that the radio killer has blown up his house a while ago, killing his parents. The next day, JJ is being forced to hold everyone up at gunpoint, and the group of friends finally realize that one of them is the person behind all this. Also, Liam decided to play Electro's theme from The Amazing Spider-Man 2 at this point. The radio killer modified the gun to have a switch and starts mag dumping into everyone around Gray. Gray gets his sister home, but the bomb goes off. Turns out everything was a pre-recorded message, and knowing that this is a Liam Vickers story, no shit, the sister's the villain. Gray gets knocked out, and 3 months pass only for the radio killer to strike again.
We then have unpaid redactions. Now, very little is known about this project, however it seemed to be an attempt by Liam to bring together a bunch of different ideas he had for other projects, along with reimagining a bunch of his SSTWL characters, like Malay, Ponder, and Callie, with them all being placed in some secret lab in the middle of Russia, SCP style. Interestingly enough, during his Goodbye SSTWL video, all the way back in July of 2020, this was the project that he teased. Now, if you consider the timeline of things for a second, Liam teased Murder Drones all the way back in July of 2021. Now, Glitch confirmed that it took a year to make the Murder Drones pilot, with there likely being talks well before production even started, which means that Unpaid Redactions was the project that Liam was working on before he got approached by Glitch to make Murder Drones. So, in all due likelihood, if MD never got made, we would have had Unpaid Redactions in its place, which is interesting to think about. But hey, who knows? Unpaid Redactions might be what Liam is working on right now that Murder Drones has long since ended. But that is quite unlikely, to be honest, which is a shame too, and conceptually it looks really cool. The show even had the Eldritch monsters, beyond all human comprehension, just like Murder Drones had. Now you know where the inspiration for Eldritch J came from. After all, everything has a history.
There's also a small comic strip where that Pokemon from that really edgy animation he did a while back is forced to work at McDonald's, and he has that same Pokemon return in a couple other strips. And it just unfolds into something deranged by the end. The one thing that has me scratching my head a bit is if this really was Liam's animation, but he does voice in a majority of this. It's a short called Dr. Vickers that is on the Boredom Archive. The short starts off in a Tooth village burning down, where Max the cowboy Tooth has to go in to save the day. And it cuts to a story Liam is reading out to one of his patients. But then, this is a story within a story, so these 2 girls are just absolutely fangirling over the Dr. Vickers Vickers novel, and how they joke about it's a better idea for him to become a dentist than an animator. The girl on the right dies from a paper cut, and we pan over to the reincarnation of Helen Keller. Now, finally at last, we have an animation called Stuff Happens, Get Umergency, which is a small animated advertisement for Umergency, which is an app for high school or college students to help them through an emergency situation. From what it seems like, that is pretty much everything I could dig up on Liam Vickers. From the archive, to the Google Drive, to the wiki, from Wayback Machine, that's pretty much it. There is probably way more than there appears, and I'm probably only scratching the surface of all this. But you know what? I really did have fun researching this video, and I really want to give a huge thank you and the shout out to the SSTWL Discord and wiki for keeping a record of everything Liam has done. It genuinely surprises me and scares me how committed these people are to Liam's work. I also want to thank the Dire Duck for coming on to explain a couple things for SSTWL and also providing me with some resources to help organize this absolutely insane search of a video.
No worries, Slayer. Liam has a lot of history and hidden works out there, much of which is very difficult to find unless you know where to look. So I'm glad I can help bring some of these hidden gems to everyone's attention, and Liam has made a lot of good stuff beyond simply murder drones, and these old works should really be appreciated more. After all, these works help define who Liam is today, and help shape murder drones into the show we currently have. Goodbye everyone, and thanks for watching.
There's going to be a link for everything and for everyone in the description below, even for people I haven't explicitly named in this video. They still deserve a lot of credit for all the stuff they've done for Liam's work and also archiving everything. So please go check them out because this video wouldn't have been possible without them. I don't typically make videos like this, but who knows, I had fun, so maybe I'll do something like this again. Hey, so this is like, I don't know, post-editing Slayer. This video started out in like the beginning of November, and it is now the end of fucking December when I finish this shit. I take back everything I just said. I do not want to do this again for a long time. Anyways, if you did enjoy the video, please do consider leaving a like and subscribing. Sorry for not like actually uploading a real video for a while. I've just been really busy at the time with the Actors Goodbye video, which absolutely popped off, and I've been working on a lot of stuff with some other people behind the scenes as well. School has also been a pretty big factor on why I haven't been uploading. Now is the time when I have to actually start looking into colleges and stuff and, you know, getting ready for all that, which kind of takes priority over YouTube. I promise I'll try to get back to uploading as often as I can. It's just gonna take a little bit until I get this whole weight of, like, you know, getting accepted into college is off my shoulders. Anyways, I'll see you in the next one.